Nigger faggot.
I know you're a stupid nigger, right?
You fucking nigger. Nigger faggot.
White privilege is just, like, it's such a thing.
Nigger faggot. Nigger faggot. Nigger faggot.
Well, I never thought I'd see a bunch of overly sensitive moral busybodies getting hyperactive about the fact that a comedian said something that was funny. But then again, I don't expect them to have a sense of humor. I'm talking about that thing that iDubbbz did to that girl where he said say nigger to the camera and then all of a sudden she's just, well, reacting like a complete spastic.
So the guy looks at me and he wraps his arm around me and he looks in the camera and he goes, say, and it puts his thumbs up and then like blank and he says the N-word, like hard R, N-word. I would feel in moments like that where you were scared for so many reasons, for your life, for other people's lives, and I may sound really, really melodramatic and I don't want to sound melodramatic.
Say nigger.
Fast forward to the future, I guess the guy that came to my show trying to get me to say the N-word in my video that I'm crying over, that I was terrified over, literally contemplated like canceling my tour. Now I have to like get all these metal detectors, all these security because I'm fucking terrified. This guy that legitimately terrified me was iDubbbz.
Look, I've said this time and time again, but context matters. If somebody says some sort of racial slur, some sort of swear to somebody else, you don't actually know. Like, even if they say it in some sort of mean way, you're not entirely sure. What if they have this inside joke with their best friend where they make this kind of joke and they say it in an angry way because that's part of the joke? I don't know. But you don't really know. You don't know anything about them. You don't know why they've said it. I could call my best friend a bitch, and it would be a term of endearment. I'm not trying to say anything bad about them, it's just that we're having fun or whatever. And this would probably be a fairly embarrassing overreaction, it'd be pretty annoying for people, but then it gets worse.
White privilege is just, like, it's such a thing. I don't know, I don't want you guys to think that in any way I'm trying to make this video, like, my spotlight. Feel bad for me, pity me, because, like, fuck, I'm already white privileged enough and I need to be aware of it, and I need to use my platform to do everything I can to advocate against that and to advocate for equality.
Yes, white privilege does exist, but so does any other demographics privilege. It's all down to context. It's a case-by-case basis. You can't just say that this one particular type exists. That's pretty redundant to put that qualifier in front of it, because any place you'd get some sort of privilege going on with someone, that's just based on what the people believe. And you only highlighting an insignificant particular part of the privilege whole concept, that is just racist. You're just trying to pick out somebody because you don't like that person's looks or the way they were born. Yeah, I bet the white people were feeling really, really privileged when in the UK the BBC was like, hey, we have research positions that doesn't really require you to have any particular type of demographic, but we're only hiring non-whites. Or I bet the white people feel really privileged when, even though they could be super poor just as much as anyone else, they are only really those scholarships and things based on minority stuff, because we still apparently have to have those. I don't really like those. I get that some people use them, but my point is that it is a case-by-case basis thing because anybody can be poor. And we're up to the point now where everybody's got some sort of problem. Any group can have a disadvantage. It's not just down to white people. And are you personally responsible for slavery? Did you go back in time and decide to take some slaves and start the entire movement yourself? No? Then I don't know why you have white guilt. Unless you actually did something, and in that case that would be your personal guilt and nothing to do with your skin color. If you're a complete psychopath and you do actually have slaves somewhere in your basement, that's not because of your skin color. That's because you're a complete psycho and maybe you had too much of the Windex as a child. Do you have racist thoughts? Do you do racist things? Do you run around and scream about how much you hate the chinks and you want to gas the kikes while kicking over people? No? Well, doesn't look like you're that bad of a person to me, so stop with the guilt, please. People go from saying that they have some sort of white guilt for some reason, and then all of a sudden they're saying that other people are the bad people and that they should punch those people. And even though those people didn't hit them, it's suddenly okay to just punch them. I think it's fair to say that nobody really likes Nazis unless you're a Nazi. But even then, is it okay to punch them? I don't think it is. Unless you're doing it out of self-defense, in which case they probably hit you first, but just straight up punching them seems like an obvious thing not to do. So I don't know why there's a bunch of articles and videos suddenly justifying the fact that you should hit people. That it's okay to drag yourself down to their level and it's actually wrong not to do that. How insane do you have to be? If a Nazi is threatening people with violence and going up and actually punching people, actually doing the violence, then it's okay to intervene and to especially if it's against you, self-defense, to protect people, that's fine. But if someone is just standing there, even if they're saying things that you consider really, really hateful, if you punch him, you're the one who's in the wrong. And anyway, the label of a fucking Nazi doesn't even mean anything anymore. First it was misogyny, then it was racism, now it's Nazi. As soon as I hear those words, I'm like, hey, maybe they're not that bad of a person because those lot don't like him. Just like when Naz1-Tron talked to Sargon and Dr. Lehman and a bunch of other people, and he didn't say anything bad. I didn't watch the entire thing, but I did skim through a large portion of it over a couple of days to get as much as I could out of it, and he's just saying stuff that is just normal stuff. I mean, even if you don't agree with what he's saying personally about solutions to specific issues, you can't deny that he's not saying anything racist, he's not being sexist, he's not being violent, he's just a normal guy expressing his opinions. But he's not allowed to do that anymore. It's just like that thing a while ago, a really long time ago, there was that weird guy on Vine, I think it was, called Nash Grier, his name is, and he made this stupid video about what he likes in girls, and everybody flipped the fuck out. All these feminists and white knights just ran up and said, hey, we don't like this, we don't like that you have standards, and all he was doing was expressing what he likes. Yet, if a woman does it about men, all of a sudden it's perfectly fine. Men aren't allowed to have standards because it hurts women's feelings about the fact that people expect them to be decent human beings, and then suddenly it's okay to say, I don't want a fat guy, I want a strong guy, I want a guy that isn't nerdy, I want a guy that earns a lot, I want a rich, handsome guy. That's fine, but if you do it the other way around, you're just the worst person. It's the same sort of thing. Anybody can express their opinion as long as it's pandering to the group that is really fucking sensitive and apparently has all the power. Anybody who's an e-celeb or just a celebrity in general is apparently instantly supposed to become this blank slate that is only existing to pander to you. Like they're not allowed to be a person themselves. Every single time a celebrity expresses a pandering opinion, everybody's just like, yes, keep doing that, that's amazing, you're an amazing person, even though you've really done nothing except say something like that. But as soon as they say, not even something that is just a strong opinion, maybe they say something like, hey, maybe we should slow down about all of this and take a while to think about it. And then all of a sudden people hate them. When Nicole Kidman said, hey, maybe we should calm down and just take the results of the election and just maybe learn how to cope with it and just do what we can to make it a positive thing. Everybody flipped the fuck out. She's getting hate messages now. She didn't even say a strong opinion. She just said an indifferent opinion. She didn't say she supported the guy, at least I don't think so. And not in that statement, maybe in another statement. But when she first came out with that statement itself, everybody just flipped, and for no reason. And anyway, most of the time when you have a musician or someone who acts in movies or whatever, you really look at what they're doing and not them as a person. Whenever I listen to bands, unless it's my very favorite bands, like I listen to Elliott Smith, I know a bit about him, I know a bit about how he died and it was really sad, and I know a bit about his band, Heatmiser, before he went into being Elliott Smith and just making his own music. That's just because I got so interested in him, and his music inspired me so much in my own learning of instruments that I just wanted to learn more about him. But if you have other people that I just casually listen to, I don't care what they come out with. I don't see why your art, which has become a thing in itself away from you, has to suddenly be boycotted just because of your opinion. When Naz1-Tron came out and said that he's a bit sick of SJWs, like the rest of us are, all of the little snowflakes were suddenly just like, hey, we have to boycott him, don't watch his channel, unsubscribe, and all of this stupid shit. Peanut Butter Gamer is another sort of person that I kind of watch sometimes. He came out and basically was incredibly dishonest on Twitter and started saying that Naz1-Tron was saying stuff about how Syrian refugees were not worthy or something like that, and Naz1-Tron was just talking about how there was a problem with Mexico and a lot of people going in illegally. And he wasn't even saying anything that strong about it. He was just stating that it was a problem and maybe discussing a couple ways that it could be solved or maybe not. And even though I completely disagree with Peanut Butter Gamer and I think that he is really dishonest in doing that and he just backpedaled really quickly and then he made this big issue about politics and friendship, I still kind of watch his videos because some of them are pretty enjoyable. So we need to really take out this ideological attachment if it has nothing to do with it. This is like the Gamergate thing all over again. People just want to play games. They just want to play things, have fun, create games, and not hold themselves back by having to insert these artificially inflated numbers of certain minorities or anything like that. Just create stuff. And then all of a sudden, these game journalists are supposed to be doing things, but they're not. They're just starting to take on their own agendas and saying that if you don't match me ideologically, I'm gonna give you a bad score. Which brings me to another point. The women's marches that happened was a perfect demonstration of how self-centered the feminist movement has become and how really annoying all of this stuff is. But honestly, it's not as big a deal, I think. A lot of this stuff happens all the time. Whenever something happens, like a president is elected that you don't personally like, there's always a group of people out there who will protest. That always happens about a lot of things, just because people do that. People can't really take the results. People think they're gonna change something. It just happens all over the place for any sort of group out there. So it's not really that special. I think the only reason that people are making a really big deal about it is maybe because the numbers are a tiny bit bigger, and also because we're in such a ridiculous scenario of the whole Trump thing, and the whole SJW sort of fight that's going on has been boiling up so much that people are just so on edge about it, and so many people are realizing what kind of ideology it is, that when something like this happens that really isn't that much of a big deal, suddenly it just blows up. And because it blows up, the people who are marching probably get more numbers in. All of that stuff just feeds into this one irritating cycle. But I do think that a lot of the criticism is valid. Some people might be making too much of a big deal about it, but it's valid what they're saying. Feminists make this big deal about people in the Western world, women in the Western world, despite the fact that men get oppressed there too, and they say that this is a big deal and this validates feminism in the Western world. But as soon as it comes to actually making things happen, actually putting in the effort to act about it, you just get feminists protesting about themselves. It's just stuff to do with themselves. They do not care about those people. If you bring those people up, they'll accuse you of being misogynist or something. They'll just say, why are you bringing that up? But then as soon as you ask them why feminism is legitimate, they'll just bring up women in the third world. That always happens. They don't actually care at all. You could have marched on the Saudi Arabian embassy or something. You know, where women are actually being hurt, despite the fact that I would try to make you pay attention to the fact that boys are also being hurt as well, but you don't care about them, so even then, marching for the women would still kind of help. It would still show that, hey, maybe you do have your head screwed on right, maybe you didn't rip out your heart, maybe you're not completely self-centered. But that didn't happen. And this isn't the only reason why people are starting to really dislike social justice more than before. Look at this article. Don't call pregnant patients mothers. Doctors are banned from using the word over fears it will upset those who are transgender. Official guidelines created by the British Medical Association says mothers should be referred to as pregnant people. The move aims to avoid offending and alienating trans parents. The advice came in a 14-page booklet titled A Guide to Effective Communication, Inclusive Language in the Workplace. I do not have problems with pronouns. You can call yourself things and then just go, hey, I was wondering if you could kind of use this for me, I would appreciate that. Just in a nice, polite way like a normal person would. I would be fine with that. Absolutely. But when you try to mandate respect, when you try to say this is something that you have to do, you're going to get the opposite. Exactly like what happens with Jordan Peterson and all of them. They're trying to legislate respect, and people just hate them because of that. You can't control that. The only way to get respect is to earn respect, honestly. If you try to make people respect you, you'll get fear, maybe. You'll get hatred, but you will not get respect. And the difference is, with respect, people have actually decided that you deserve their respect, and they'll stick around when you need help. They will be with you because they respect you. If they fear you, as soon as you are knocked down, they will either push you away or they will run away from you, and they will leave you when you need it. So the fear and the hatred will not get you anywhere, because sooner or later, everybody gets knocked down. And transgender people are a very, very small part of the population, and that doesn't mean that they are suddenly not deserving of help. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is, when you have a majority that have one thing, and a minority that has a tiny bit of something that varies, like somebody might have a specific pronoun that has nothing to do with the word mother or anything like that, shouldn't they be the ones? Shouldn't you make out the form with a little box at the end that says, if you're transgender, just put a note of what your pronouns are and we'll make some space for you, and not just change it for everybody else? And even then, besides the point, the doctors are supposed to know what you biologically are, right? So if you're female, it goes through their head that female has this organs, or this type of thing, and we need to do this for them. But men, we need to do this for them. So I know that you have your pronouns and everything, but if you are still biologically one way, then you need to tell them, because that's the way that they know. They know that you're female. And that's not them being oppressive, that is them doing their job. You wanting to be a special snowflake and saying, I'm not going to tell you, congratulations, you're putting your own health in jeopardy. And doing this is probably putting a whole bunch of other people's health in jeopardy. So I get why people don't like you. You're putting your health in jeopardy and you just can't let go of the little details. Which brings me to my next point. So people want to change the Australia Day date. And this is just one of the I don't know why this is such a big deal. There was another thing they did a while back about wanting to end the 4th of July, because that was problematic. Let me tell you something. Christmas. When you celebrate Christmas, if you believe in Jesus, you are celebrating basically someone dying for you. It is a gruesome sacrifice with bloody hatefulness and all of this negativity, but what you do is you take the positivity and you use it to show love to your family, to spread happiness, joy, and get your children all excited about Christmas and tell them stories about Santa Claus. It's a really positive thing, but it has roots in something that could be really negative if you take it from, say, somebody who's being murdered. That's negative. Guy Fawkes Day. People who celebrate that know that it wasn't a fun time for Guy Fawkes or his friends. They didn't have a fun time, and that wasn't a very good thing. But remember, the 5th of November probably seems like something like a Remembrance Day that people are choosing to turn into positivity so that the remembrance can keep going, so that people can unite out of positivity. And I understand that bad things happen in the past, but that's my point. Bad things happen in the past, but we need to remember them while moving on. And the best way to do that is to be positive. So on Australia Day, people can remember that there were negative stuff, but then they can use that day to unite together. And you're just making it worse by making the ads un-Australian. When you come to a country, there are specific things that make that country very unique in its own right. And when you have a day that is celebrating that country, you should put those things together. So a lot of the things that people like alcohol or barbecues and all of that sort of stuff, and then when you present them in a way that isn't iconic, you are not doing... You're doing a disservice, basically. Like, if I wanted to go to Japan, I don't want to see American stuff. I just want to see all of that traditional culture, even though if I go to the main city, that's probably not going to be there as much. I still want to see that because that's iconic. If I go to India, I want to see all of the Indian stuff. I don't want to see all of the imports of Western stuff. At least in the ads. I know that that's there, but I don't want to see it in the ads if you're trying to advertise what makes that place unique. Because everybody knows that when you go to those places, you'll see influences from other areas. Everybody fucking knows that. But you're trying to celebrate the things that other places don't have, or that originated from there. And I'm not the most patriotic person in the world. I don't really give a shit, but that's just common sense. You should be allowed to be patriotic. You should be. I don't get why you should be ashamed of that. Every place has something bad about it. But does that mean that we have to get bogged down? They're like, you're having fun. We don't let you have fun. You have to memorize all of the bad stuff that happened. You can't have fun. Yet they go and wear the "this is what a feminist looks like" t-shirts that were actually made in a sweatshop. So there is something bad about that. But that just shows how hypocritical you are, because any bad thing that's something that you like, you just sweep it under the rug. There's always something bad. It reminds me of that Rick and Morty episode where Summer was working for the devil. And then she found out that he was the devil, and then he's like, hey, why aren't you working for me anymore? And then she's like, well, clothing stores have sweatshops. Fast food makes you fat. Makeup is tested on animals. There's always something negative, so I don't see why I have to stop associating with you just because you have something bad about you. You give a warning, but people choose not to listen, and then they just do it anyway. And that's just really a good point. I don't see why you have to change the date. Because you'll change the date, and then something bad's probably happened on the date that you changed it to. Welcome to the human race. Every date's got something bad on it. Okay? Get over it. So that is all from me today. I just want to end on something really stupid and unrelated, but if you notice the music that I'm playing in the background, it's from the PlayStation 2 Harry Potter games. I just recently started playing them, and since I also recently finally got my hands on a long lost copy of The Curse of Monkey Island, I've just so I've been so filled with nostalgia that I felt like I had to share it. Do you guys remember the PlayStation 2 Harry Potter games? I think they came out like more than 10 years ago, but I love them. I was playing the second one, which is where this soundtrack is from. If you remember playing it, just tell me what your favorite bit was, because it's so much fun. And I'm just gonna end with that because I've ranted and complained a lot this episode and I wanted to end it on something positive. I don't know if I'll make a video next week per se. I think I probably will, but the thing about my schedule is gonna be fucked up a little bit because I am starting uni and everything. So I'll just rather say that I'm making videos randomly rather than me sticking to a schedule. So I just wanted to let you know about that in case there are changes popping up, and there might be some new equipment that I'm using, so I might have a different layout and I can stop using my phone, which would be nice. But I will see you in the next video, and until then, like my hero Captain Disillusion says, love with your heart and use your mind for everything else.